The smell of my mother's overcooked turkey filled the dining room as my family gathered for another Thanksgiving of judgment and thinly veiled disappointment. Crystal glasses clinked against fine china while everyone pretended not to notice that even the gravy couldn't save the dry meat. "Sarah," my mother's voice carried that familiar note of concern that always preceded criticism, "surely you're done with this phase by now?" I took a sip of wine, buying time before answering. At 32 I was supposedly too old for phases. According to my family, I should have been wearing power suits and climbing the corporate ladder at Anderson Financial, just like my older sister Elizabeth. "The food truck is doing well, Mom," I said quietly. "We're actually expanding to a second location next month." The laughter started with my brother-in-law Mark, spreading around the table like a virus. "A second food truck? How ambitious." He adjusted his Rolex, a bonus gift from his latest corporate acquisition. "What's next, a hot dog stand?" Elizabeth, perfectly polished in her Chanel suit, patted my hand with fake sympathy. "Honey, when Mark and I offered you that junior analyst position, we were trying to help. Imagine choosing a food truck over a real career." I thought about the documents sitting on my desk at Harvest Restaurant Group's headquarters, my real office, not the food truck they mocked. The same documents that would determine whether Anderson Financial survived its current crisis. But they didn't know about that part of my life. Not yet. "The truck brings in steady revenue," I defended, though I didn't mention that steady meant 7 figures annually. "Not everyone measures success by their office size." My father lowered his Wall Street Journal, frowning. "Sarah, be reasonable. You have an MBA from Wharton. Do you know how it looks when people ask what my daughter does for a living?" "I'd imagine about the same as when they ask about the SEC investigation into Anderson Financial's trading practices," I replied mildly. The table went silent. Elizabeth's fork clattered against her plate. "How do you know about that?" Mark demanded, his face flushing. I shrugged, spearing a piece of dry turkey. "News travels fast in the restaurant industry. Lots of business people eat lunch at food trucks." My mother cleared her throat, desperately trying to change the subject. "Elizabeth, tell everyone about the merger you're working on. Such exciting news." Elizabeth's perfectly maintained smile returned. "Yes, we're in talks with Summit Partners. Once the merger goes through, Anderson Financial will have the capital to weather this temporary situation." I hid my smile behind my wine glass. Summit Partners was one of my holding companies, created specifically to approach struggling financial firms. Elizabeth had no idea she'd been negotiating with my team for the past month. "Speaking of the merger," Mark added, "we're having a little celebration next week. Sarah, you shouldn't come, it's really more of a corporate event. You wouldn't be comfortable." "No food trucks allowed?" I raised an eyebrow. "Exactly," he laughed, missing my sarcasm. "This is for serious business people. In fact, we've hired the city's top restaurant group to cater. Harvest Group, they own all the best venues in town." This time I couldn't hide my smile. "I've heard of them." "Of course you have," Elizabeth smirked. "They probably rejected your food truck's application for a parking spot near their restaurants." If only she knew that I'd signed her catering contract myself this morning, deliberately choosing the most expensive menu options. After all, Anderson Financial would be paying for now. "Sarah," my mother tried again, "there's still time to fix this. Your father knows several people at Goldman Sachs." "I'm happy with my choices, Mom." "Happy?" My father's voice rose. "You're serving tacos from a truck. Meanwhile, your sister is handling billion-dollar mergers. How can you be happy being such a disappointment?" The word hung in the air like smoke, disappointment. They'd been calling me that, directly or indirectly, since I quit Anderson Financial 5 years ago. I remembered that day clearly, discovering irregularities in the trading accounts, bringing them to Elizabeth and Mark's attention, being told to mind my own business, if I wanted to keep my job. Instead, I'd walked away, using my savings to buy a food truck and start building my own empire in secret. Now Harvest Restaurant Group owned 43 high-end restaurants, 15 boutique hotels, and yes, 6 very profitable food trucks. All carefully held through different shell companies and holding corporations. "Maybe happiness isn't about the size of your office," I said, standing up. "Thanks for dinner, Mom. The turkey was, well, it was exactly what I expected." "Where are you going?" Elizabeth demanded. "We haven't even had dessert." Some of us have to work tomorrow. I gathered my things. Not all businesses close for Black Friday. Oh yes, heaven forbid the lunch crowd miss their tacos, Mark snickered. I paused at the door. Actually, I have an early meeting. A merger discussion, you might say. A merger? My father scoffed. What are you merging with, a hot dog stand? Something like that. I smiled, thinking of the documents waiting on my desk. Have a happy Thanksgiving. Oh, and Elizabeth? Good luck with Summit Partners. I hear their CEO can be demanding. Driving home to my penthouse apartment, not that they knew where I really lived, I called my assistant. Jack, is everything ready for tomorrow's meeting with Anderson Financial? Yes, Ms. Chin. Their entire board will be present at 9 a.m. Should I send the revised terms? I thought about Mark's smug face, Elizabeth's condescending smile. No, let them see the terms in person. Jack, make sure the breakfast spread includes food from all our trucks. Especially the tacos. Already arranged. Though, are you sure about keeping your identity hidden all this time? They'll find out tomorrow anyway. I smiled, remembering every dismissive comment, every mockery of my choices. Sometimes the best revenge is served with a side of guacamole. Back in my real office, the entire top floor of downtown's most prestigious building, I reviewed the merger documents one final time. Anderson Financial was in worse shape than even Elizabeth knew. Their only hope of surviving was an immediate capital injection and complete restructuring. Enter Summit Partners, offering salvation. They'd sign tomorrow, not knowing that Summit was just one piece of my carefully constructed network. By this time next week, Anderson Financial would be a subsidiary of Harvest Restaurant Group. I picked up a photo from my desk, the original food truck on its first day of business. I'd kept it as a reminder of where I started and how far I'd come while they were all too busy laughing to notice. Tomorrow they'd finally understand exactly what kind of empire you can build from a food truck. The Anderson Financial conference room looked exactly as I remembered it, all mahogany and masculine power designed to intimidate. I watched through the one-way glass of the adjacent office as the board members filed in, my family among them. Elizabeth smoothed her skirt nervously as she sat down. Mark kept adjusting his tie. Even my father, chairman of the board, looked uncomfortable. They all knew what this meeting meant: submit to Summit Partners' terms, or watch Anderson Financial collapse. Everything's ready, Ms. Chin, Jack murmured beside me. The food trucks are parked outside as requested. I smiled, picturing the row of Harvest Group's food trucks lining the prestigious Financial District street. Perfect. Let's make them wait another 10 minutes. Through the glass, I watched Mark check his Rolex repeatedly. Elizabeth's perfect manicure tapped an anxious rhythm on the table. My father's face grew increasingly red as the minutes ticked by. Finally, I nodded to Jack. Time to serve breakfast. The boardroom doors opened and a parade of servers entered carrying trays from each of my food trucks. Gourmet tacos, fusion bao buns, artisanal breakfast burritos, all presented on fine china with elegant garnishes. What is this? Mark demanded, staring at the spread. Breakfast, Jack announced smoothly, compliments of Harvest Restaurant Group's street food division. Elizabeth's eyes widened as she recognized the logo on the servers' uniforms. But these are food trucks. They can't be the same food trucks you mock regularly? I asked, finally entering the room. Actually, they are. The silence was absolute. My father's face went from red to white. Elizabeth's mouth opened and closed without sound. Mark looked like he might faint. Sarah. Elizabeth managed finally. What are you doing here? This is a private meeting with Summit Partners. Actually, I sat at the head of the table, my father's usual seat. This is a meeting with Harvest Restaurant Group. Summit Partners is one of our subsidiaries. I opened my portfolio and began distributing documents. As you can see, the terms of the merger have changed slightly. Harvest Group will be acquiring Anderson Financial directly. This is ridiculous, Mark sputtered. You run a food truck. No, I corrected him calmly. I own a food truck. I run Harvest Restaurant Group, 43 restaurants, 15 hotels, 6 food trucks and soon one struggling financial firm. My father found his voice. You're the CEO they've been negotiating with? Surprise. I smiled, sliding the merger documents across the table. Though I have to say your due diligence team should have caught this. Too busy looking down on food service industry to notice who was buying up all the prime restaurant properties in town. Elizabeth's hands shook as she read through the papers. These terms, they're completely different from what Summit proposed. Those were preliminary terms. These are final. I pointed to the relevant sections. Harvest Group will acquire Anderson Financial at current market value, which given the SEC investigation isn't much. We'll inject enough capital to stabilize the company, restructure the leadership and implement strict compliance protocols. Restructure leadership? My father's voice was dangerous. I built this company. And nearly destroyed it with creative accounting and risky trades, I countered. The SEC investigation isn't going away, Dad. Unless what? Mark demanded. Unless Anderson Financial has new ownership, new leadership and a verifiable commitment to ethical business practices by close of business today. I gestured to the documents. Luckily, I'm offering all three. Elizabeth was still reading, her face growing paler by the page. These compensation adjustments bring executive salaries in line with industry standards, I finished. No more million-dollar bonuses for failed strategies. You can't do this, Mark protested. You're just a disappointment? I supplied. Failure. The daughter who chose food trucks over a real career? Funny how perspectives change when the food truck owner is signing your paychecks. The other board members were whispering among themselves, reviewing the documents with growing concern. They knew as well as my family did that without this merger, Anderson Financial wouldn't survive the month. Why? My father asked quietly. Why all the secrecy? Why build all this without telling us? I thought about every dismissive comment, every condescending smile, every family dinner spent defending my choices. Because you never would have let me succeed on my own terms, I said simply. You were all so convinced that success only looked one way: suits, corner offices, Wall Street. I wanted to prove that empire building doesn't require sacrificing your soul. By humiliating us? Elizabeth's voice cracked. No, by saving you. I softened my tone slightly. Harvest Group's business model is based on quality, sustainability, and ethical practices. We'll bring the same principles to Anderson Financial. You can either be part of that transformation or find new jobs. Your choice. My father stood slowly, his hands pressed flat against the table. And if we refuse? Then I'll leave you to explain to the shareholders why you rejected a merger that would save their investments. I met his gaze steadily. The SEC investigation becomes public next week. How do you think the stock price will react? One by one, the board members began signing the documents. They weren't fools, they could read the writing on the wall. Elizabeth signed next, then Mark, both avoiding my eyes. Finally, only my father remained. The great Harrison Anderson, I said quietly, brought down by food trucks. He picked up the pen, hand trembling slightly. I never thought that I could succeed without following your path? That someone selling tacos could outmaneuver Wall Street? That your disappointment of a daughter would end up saving your legacy? He signed, the pen scratching loudly in the silence. The papers will be filed within the hour. I stood, gathering my things. Jack will oversee the transition team. Dad? The SEC investigation goes away once the merger is complete. Consider it a daughter's gift to her father. Sarah, Elizabeth called as I reached the door. What happens to us? I turned back. That depends on you. Harvest Group promotes based on merit, not family connections. If you're willing to learn new ways of doing business, ethical ways, there's room for you. If not, I shrugged. I hear some of our food trucks are hiring. Later that evening, I sat in my real office, watching the sun set over the city. The merger documents had been filed, the press releases sent. By morning, everyone would know that the owner of their favorite food trucks had just acquired one of the city's oldest financial institutions. My phone buzzed, a text from Elizabeth. Can we talk? Really talk. Then one from Mark. I reviewed Harvest Group's business model. It's impressive. Finally, my father, the food at the meeting, it was excellent. Your trucks. All of them. I smiled, remembering what my first chef told me. Good food brings people together, but great food changes lives. I typed 3 replies. To Elizabeth, lunch tomorrow? I know a great food truck. To Mark, come by the office. The real office. Let me show you what ethical business looks like. To my father, each truck has a different specialty. Want the tour? Setting down my phone, I walked to the window. Below, I could see one of my trucks still serving the late-night crowd. The line stretched around the block. Sometimes success doesn't look like corner offices and power suits. Sometimes it looks like a humble food truck, serving dreams one taco at a time. And sometimes the best revenge isn't proving people wrong, it's showing them a better way to be right. Miss Chin. Jack appeared at my door. Tomorrow's schedule. Push everything back an hour, I said, still watching the food truck below. I'm having lunch with my family. At the trucks. He smiled, understanding. All of them. Yes, I turned, feeling lighter than I had in years. I think it's time they learned how to build something meaningful, one meal at a time. After all, the best empires aren't built on fear and power. They're built on good food, honest work, and the courage to follow your own path, even when everyone else is laughing at your dreams. And tomorrow, over tacos and trust building, maybe my family would finally understand that.